Welcome to episode 2 of the TDI build. We're going to go into, so last time we just talked about the car, what it is, kind of how I got into things. We're going to get into the actual build part. So the first thing I did was I removed the engine and transmission, right? It's the first thing that I did. Um, I wasn't exactly sure how to do it. Okay, I couldn't find too much information online. I couldn't find too much information within the workshop manual itself. But it's pretty straightforward. Disconnect everything that has to do with the engine and transmission staying inside of the engine bay, and then remove it. Right. That's how I figured I would do it. So here we go. It's going to go ahead and start with this video over here on the right. So I took a couple things out. First thing, start with the airbox, the battery tray. When you remove the airbox and battery tray in most vehicles, it exposes you to everything else. Transmission mount is right there. The shift forks are there. It's a manual transmission, right? So you got to pop the shift forks out, or else when you go to remove everything, you're going to pull the cables out with you and cause a lot of damage. We have intercooler piping. We have the heater hoses in the back. A lot of guys who do an engine removal for the first time, especially hobbyists, they will forget to detach the heater hoses, and then when they go to pull it off, they'll go ahead and damage the heater core, and then that's super. It's such an expensive mistake for something so simple. So don't forget, disconnect everything, check everything twice. I also had, as the video loops, you'll see again, there was this heat shield that's up against the firewall that's kind of rotting out and getting itself in. So I had to remove that. I wasn't sure how to safely remove anything. Again, kind of just starting out, really trying to do something really big and ambitious on my own in my driveway. But I located everything that I needed to take apart, and I kind of like wrote down a list, and I just started working down that list step by step. And sure enough, and look, this took a couple of days, right? I only had a few hours in the beginning. I only had like a few hours a week to really work on this. Of course, I'm also limited by weather. I'm limited by like scheduling. I'm limited by like, am I tired? Because I'm working as a mechanic. It's summertime too. We got a lot of mosquitoes out there. Got a lot of bugs. I got eaten alive by mosquitoes throughout this entire build. Let me tell you something. So we're gonna go ahead. A few, probably another week later, I would say, I got to this point, and I mean, what okay, another reason why I just love Volkswagens and Audis and all those builds is you could just plop the whole front end off, right? So I was sitting there, I was doing some research, and I was trying to figure out, like, man, am I going to pull this up? Am I going to? Nope. You could just take the front end off, take the headlights out, and you can see right there, I got the front bumper and the whole like radiator and that whole radiator support and the crash bar. It's all one piece. It's 4 bolts hold it in, and you just pop it everything right out, right? And then I have access to the entire powertrain. Super important. You'll see there. I have my little that little catch right there, the pan. You got to drain your coolant and drain your oil. Okay, before you do any of this. Now listen, you can keep the oil in there, but when you remove your radiator, drain your coolant. There's something called a petcock. I know. It's called a petcock. It's a little valve on the radiator. You open it up. The coolant is going to drain out super slow. You could remove the lower radiator hose and just have a bunch of coolant, dump into your pan, but that's going to lead to a lot of coolant dumping onto your driveway. You can see my neighbor right out on the left over there. That's part of her property. I don't want a bunch of coolant seeping into her grass and killing her plants, killing her grass. I was very fortunate to have super cool neighbors throughout this entire process. They'd come by and hang out and talk and ask me questions. Like, I really, really have the best neighbors. So, look, if you've got really annoying neighbors, this is going to be a more difficult thing for you to do. I'm also very fortunate, and like I have a backyard, I have a shed, right? So there were places for me to store things. But that's really it. It's just so important to stay clean, right? Especially in the beginning. You got to stay clean, you got to stay organized. So make sure all the liquids that are inside of the engine, inside the cooling system, you completely evacuate as much as you can. You're never going to really get it completely out. And then organize all your nuts, organize all your bolts. Keep reading those instructions, keep identifying those components from the book onto the actual platform itself, and check all your work. Check your connectors, tape your connectors. I'm pretty sure in a video later, I'm not too sure, but anytime I disconnected a connector, I would wrap that connector with masking tape, just to make sure, like, no corrosion or anything gets in there and messes things up. So it's a really important part. Now, also notice I have the car on jack stands, right? That's really important. And something I didn't talk about actually earlier. One of the things to identify, you got to remove the axles. One of the big mistakes I made, and when I say mistake, I mean this cost me so much time. Where there was a much easier way to do it, is I actually opted to remove the entire axle out of the spindle, out of the hub, whatever, and pull that out of the transmission. When what I really should have done, right, was just unbolt the axles. Because for those who know Volkswagens, they got, and Audis, they got the triple squares that bolt right into the transmission. It's like its own hub. It's not like a slip spline like you see on like just about every other vehicle. So I could have just unbolted them, and that's it. Left the axles hanging out there, and then pulled the axles out if I wanted to, or just kept them there and bolted them back in. It probably took me like an extra 2.5 hours if I just removing both axle shafts out by themselves, which is something that if you're trying to do this, just unbolt the axles, and then when it's time to pull the powertrain out, just do it that way. You'll thank me later. So another thing you'll see is I have the car jacked up, right, on jack stands, and I put the tires, the wheel and tires underneath, because I'm a safety nut. One thing about my driveway is the driveway is super soft. So I'll put the jack stands right on, and it'll just like sink an inch into the driveway. Okay, that's kind of how the driveway was. I'm not the one who built it; it just kind of came with the house like that. So I also made sure to put the wheels and tires underneath. Later on, I figured out that if I just put a piece of plywood underneath the jack, it wouldn't sink, into the ground. It was really annoying to kind of figure it out, because I'll jack up a car to a point where I think I have clearance, and then the whole jack like sinks into the ground, and then no longer have like the clearance for what I need. So it took me again way too long to figure that out. So that's just another tip for anyone who's trying to do this for the first time, or who just is working on softer ground. Even works if you're like on soil. Just give yourself a better platform. Put the jack on. The jack won't sink into the soil, or at least won't sink into the soil that much. Kind of like snowshoes, right? So I'm not sure how to end these things. So that's it for today's episode. And the next episode, I think I pull the engine out, and I'll tell you a really great story that has to do with that. Awesome. Appreciate it. Take care. I don't know how to end these videos.